All right, hello, welcome to the third introduction for the second episode of the first ever Anonkun / Quest Community podcast. I am your host, DM-Casual, writer of another goddamn Persona Quest and mod / unofficial community liaison. And today with me, I have Contrived, E, NMD, and Pally. So why don't you guys go ahead and introduce yourselves at your own pace? I'm going to sit here and just laugh.
Okay, I guess I'll be the first one then. I am MMD. I am the translator for the Paladin of Avalon and an editor for its original version. I'm translating it from Russian and editing its Russian version. I've been on Akun for like 4 years now, but I don't read many quests.
Okay, I might as well go next. I'm Pally. I run far too many quests. I also run a Paladin quest. Paladin of Joy is my first quest, and this is the second time I've been on the Anonkun podcast, so hopefully regular listeners should recognize my voice.
Do we even have regular listeners at this point?
We've got a few.
If
I
you've
would
been here the
assume
first
so.
time.
Well, second and first time. There were 2 podcasts.
Well, in any case, I'm Contrived and I run Promises of Power on Akun. And also, if you were to ask some Anons, I am the Lord of Salt.
Good reputation.
Well, okay.
Well, I wouldn't call you the Lord of Salt. I would call the victim of salt.
I was gonna say
I
that.
mean, wow, thanks for interrupting my introduction. Fuck, man. Okay, I'm E. I run Joker Quest, and I'm also apparently a regular on this podcast. That's it. Oh, I don't have much to do with Anonkun as well. Why are you laughing? There was no joke there. I don't understand. You okay?
Grim MAND said DMC is the
We're
joke.
off to a great
MMD.
start, guys.
I don't understand what I said.
You guys are
Somebody
too much.
please get DMC his meds.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna try and calm myself down now. So,
Please.
this week in questing, I don't think anything new happened. Did anything new happen? Any new quests of note?
Life of a Magister is pretty good, from what I've seen so
I
far.
was going to say Evil Sorceress, but none of you. This isn't the QST podcast, so
There has been a resurgence of lolly quests on Akun. Well,
that's
yeah.
degenerate.
It's news. Degenerate news, still news.
That's true. Well, most news is degenerate if you follow the mainstream media.
Yes, unfortunately. Or fortunately, depends on your point of view.
Oh man, don't even talk to me about the point of view. I just got out of a 2-hour-long argument about fucking Dungeons and Dragons alignments with people in main chat.
Didn't you start
What
it by
alignment are
posting
you
the
doing?
link to the
Why?
test?
I totally did start the argument, but
Why
I'm tired
would-
of the argument.
Well, what did you expect when you get a bunch of autists arguing about alignments? Honestly, DMC, you should know better at this point.
I
Yeah, I agree.
really should. I don't know why I keep doing this. All right, so I'm not.
Yeah.
No, you go ahead.
I wonder what happened to Sue. Did she drink herself to the point where she doesn't even remember about the podcast?
Well, her options were go to a party and get drunk, or go on this podcast.
Yeah, I remember
So I
that.
assume
So
she took
that's
the former option.
okay.
Yeah,
She
it's,
got
it's a
she
really
could have
hard
had-
decision.
Mm-hmm. Oh, good. Yes, it is. She could have at least told us, I guess.
Nah,
It happened.
well then we wouldn't have.
Yeah, it does.
Tell us about your recent and relevant event, Grimmond.
Tell us about it, Grimmond.
Did Grimmond introduce himself?
He's not. He's not actually talking. He's just
Yeah.
unmuted for whatever reason.
Okay.
Okay, fixed.
Grimmond is, for the uninitiated who can't see the chat,
Grim
One of our
MAND said I'm Grim MAND, and I
Alright,
record,
this fucker
and
has text to
shitpost with
speech on.
text-to-speech
Yeah, that's
I don't
occasionally.
know
what I
why the
meant.
fuck any of you have that option on, or why you'd be recording yourself using the machine voice, but okay.
Oh god. Please don't. Please turn it off. It's terrible.
Keep
Like,
playing more of it.
seriously.
It's very popular.
I
What did you
know
say
it's
about
popular.
Mormons?
What?
I heard Mormons. I don't know.
Mormons, what?
Nobody
Where did
said
you get
anything
Mormons
about
from?
Mormons.
I don't know. I have bad hearing.
Yeah, no shit.
Oh god.
This is, at the very least, this is more fun than the first one.
Yeah. Well, what about the second
Oh,
one?
I
I
mean,
never
weird.
got
I had
around
fun with the
to
first one.
listening to it.
I'm laughing more in this one, at least.
You only had fun the first time around because you were fucking bawling a literal autist.
Well, Pally
Don't
had
you
fun,
fuck-
didn't you, Pally?
I had lots of fun. Yes.
I had fun once. It was awful.
Ah, memes.
Yeah, see? So the first one was good for everyone but DMC and Ill Wars and okay, so it was fun
It-
for me and Pally.
It was
but
fun
Yeah,
while
it
it
was. It
lasted.
was.
The lack of fun had very little to do with you guys.
oh, it was fun for the audience as well. Man.
Oh, I can
Probably.
imagine.
Well,
What,
yeah,
me
it was.
talking for 45
was.
minutes was fun for everybody.
Yeah?
Yeah, I guess.
Other
Yeah.
interesting things to say.
I mean, I don't know. Any of you guys have
Oh,
anything
so
particular you want to talk about?
So you came to the chat. See you in the chat.
Sue's in chat?
Well, she's on a road trip apparently, so.
Well,
What?
if you want a
Why?
podcast and a road trip, go ahead.
Jesus Christ.
Podcast on a road trip. Akun podcast on a road trip. No, I wouldn't recommend that. I wouldn't recommend that at all.
Yeah, why would we prepare for this? This is so much better. Just
I fucking love just mumbling over each other and sort of like sitting around for 30 seconds at a time trying to think of something to say. It's fucking great. I'm
I
sure it's
can
riveting to
imagine,
listen to these
yeah.
people as well.
I can imagine. It looks like something you would enjoy, yeah.
so should we at least go to the question room then, so we have something to talk about?
Yes, please.
I mean, we could
Yeah,
talk
let's make
about
the listeners do all
recent
the work.
events.
Ask us questions, everybody.
I mean, there's
Can't
already
think of any recent events.
it's already a huge amount in there.
Can you name one example of white people being oppressed systematically by POC, that's people of color, based upon race?
Do I look like the sort of person getting a sociology degree?
Why?
I don't know what you look like. Oh, you're
That's
a
fair.
Jew, so yeah, you probably do.
Really? That's not a stereotype I've heard.
I mean, a sociology degree seems insulting, so that was my logic there.
You can
It's a
do better
question
than
from
that.
the fucking QM. Like, what the fuck, guys? Why are you talking about that?
Okay, who would you marry, fucking kill between Martian Triggerman, Sleepy Anon, and DM-Casual?
I
Okay.
don't really know Sleepy Anon. Like, can you bring me up to speed?
You could just fuck Sleepy Anon, and then do you kill MT or do you marry MT, or do you kill DMC and or marry DMC?
Please kill
Well,
me.
I would certainly kill MT.
That's sensible. So now you have to marry DMC.
And DMC,
I-
this is what happens when you let EEEAUGH direct the conversation.
No,
What? I'm
not
just
actually
going through
upset,
the
I'm just
joke
pretending to be upset because
questions
it's funny.
first. Like there are plenty of legitimate things I'm getting to. Like are feet, breasts, asses, hands, or hips the most important thing?
It's a good question, and I disagree with all of them. I say legs.
Yeah, okay, that's reasonable.
Uh, general physique, like the
Also-
figure, the body, overall. It
Hands?
has to click together, not
Okay.
just one separate part, but everything has to click.
That's an
for it to be good.
enlightened opinion.
Thank you.
I have to agree with MMD. It's the general body shape that matters.
Seriously, why does that question ask hands? Like, was anyone expected to answer hands?
Probably.
I
Well, it's
would
handy
be
to
less
have it in there
surprised.
just in case someone wants to pick it.
I mean, I
Well,
guess.
you could as well put all other parts of the body.
Oh,
Like
yeah,
I don't know.
it's a JoJo reference. All right, I've been.
Yeah, I was thinking that maybe. But...
I just got completely named on.
If Bids is suggesting some legitimate shit, here's
Yeah, all right.
something interesting.
Let's
What is
take-
your dream for Anonkun?
My dream as a moderator is receive better moderation tools, like an IP ban function that doesn't run the risk of nuking the entire site for 10 minutes at a time. And then B, for Cass to just swallow his goddamn pride and open a Patreon already, or turn off Mancom. I'll be satisfied with one of the two. Like, both would be a pipe dream. That's never happening, but at least one of them happening. That would be amazing.
I think it will be no surprise to anyone who follows my quest that I'd very much like polls that I could actually trust.
Oh yeah, I agree completely. As a player, I would
Yeah,
say that
same here.
yes, some kind of what's it called? Like a ban list for fake IPs, like the Fortune has. That would be great.
Yeah. Or like what's it? Just having an option like straw poll does it. Like so you could make it so you could only fill out a poll once per IP, or not once per IP, once per ID. That would be great.
Yeah, that would be good too, but I don't think that would help much. You would just log out and then use proxies like you had before.
If anything's better than nothing.
Yes,
As long
that's
as it
true.
like makes it inconvenient to say in fact, that helps a lot.
Yeah, everything that makes it more inconvenient helps. Sure.
The easier a thing is in general, not even just with questing, the easier something is, the more people are going to do it.
Yep.
Yeah, pretty much. You're never going to be able to stop it completely, but if you make it hard, you can at least cut down on it.
As for Akun in general, I would say that I don't want Cas to open a Patreon so much because he's paying his own money anyway and he won't stop in any foreseeable future, I don't think. It's to swallow his pride and actually hire someone to make the site work properly or do it himself, find the time.
Yeah,
That's
actually,
what I want.
I'm going to replace my Patreon wish for that also. Like, at
Oh,
the very
that's
least,
pretty
use
fun,
the Patreon for that.
Unless Cas is willing to hire someone to help him, Patreon won't help. It won't give him more time or won't make him more willing to spend his time that he is spending on some personal stuff now.
Yeah.
I don't think money is the problem with how much Cas, as far as I know at least, is paying for the site right now. It's his willingness to do something and his willingness to spend time on it.
Also his competency.
Yeah, that's another issue.
I actually don't think so. Well, at least not to the degree that you at least think. I think that you think what the fuck. I think that he could do stuff and do it properly if he just put in the time and if he was willing to do that.
I mean, I don't doubt that. It's just that, like, I don't even mean programming specifically, just in general and designing a website. He's not hugely competent. I mean, I don't doubt he can code shit well, but okay.
Yeah.
I do
Yeah, I
doubt
agree.
he can code
I
shit
agree.
well,
I
but
agree.
it's just overall he's not especially competent. And he needs, if he's going to do all the programming, he needs someone else to like design the site.
At the very least, he needs to buy some goddamn textbooks.
Yeah.
Sorry?
I said at the very least, he needs to buy some textbooks,
Why?
like to teach him how to.
Okay.
That was a really poorly received joke. Jesus Christ.
All right. Speaking of money, let's take another question from Fiddlekins because, oh no, I just like them more. What are your thoughts on monetizing quests?
I've actually
disgusting.
had some of my Anons outright ask me to set up a Patreon so that they can throw money at me. and I think
You're gonna do it?
I'm actually busy setting up a page. I've been slowly setting up the Patreon page over the past week. I still need to.
Oh, you Jew.
Yes, I know. I've I still need to sort out like the legal matters, so, like how taxation on it will work in my country and so on.
Mm. I would say
Yeah.
that, but that's not really monetization of a quest. Like monetization of a quest would be if you write stuff for people who donate. Like it's just people thanking you for what you do. That's not much of a monetization. At least I don't think of it as a monetization.
Kind of. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't intend to give anyone who donates to me any measure of creative control over my quest. I mean, if that would, I, I can say I'd never do something like that because, well, for starters, I'm too egotistical for it.
I complete.
Yeah,
Sure, go ahead.
I take advice from my chat, of course. I mean, if according to some of them, I take advice from chat way too much, but ultimately, I don't think I could run a quest if if basically there was someone standing over me saying you have to do this because I'm giving you money for it.
Yeah, I don't think the
I
free
agree.
speech would be cool with that at all.
I actually follow your quest, and I wouldn't say that you take too much advice from chat. Like you do it when it's necessary. Like I'd say that all the retcons that you did were justified. If anyone cares about my opinion, which probably not many people do. Anyway, I completely agree about on your stance on quest monetization, and I'd say that a Patreon or a similar service is the only proper way to give quest creators money. Like anything else would be infringement on creative freedom, which I abhor.
You don't want to see quest Kickstarters?
Yeah,
Uh,
I think I just threw up a
Quests
little.
on Steam Greenlight?
Like actually, I just threw up a little.
I can't think of any other ways you'd monetize quests, but
there was actually several ideas several years ago when people were discussing how to monetize Anonkun. One of the ideas was to make it like Twitch chat, so people can donate and have some. Yeah. Stop laughing. Yeah.
That's terrible. That was so badly.
All right, I'm done laughing.
Okay, great.
I mean, I personally, I don't think I'm good enough to deserve a Patreon, which is probably why no one's ever recommended I have one. And I feel like I could only start that if I was doing something actually useful. Like if I ever release one of the mini RPG Maker projects, I would consider maybe starting a Patreon for that sort of thing. I don't think personally I would have it in me to start it just for writing. I don't see writing as anything like that particular special that I do, that particularly special. So I don't think I, in good conscience, could take people's money for it.
If this podcast got big, and I mean it won't, believe me, would you take money for it?
Depends on who wants to give me money and for why. Would I like take a $10 a month
Like a
Crunchyroll
Patreon, I
sponsorship?
mean. If people asked you to set up a Patreon for it, would you?
I mean, if there was a demand for it, why wouldn't I take free money?
Okay.
I mean, I gotta live up to some stereotypes.
Yeah, of course. You said that before I could insult you. You can't.
Well, questing by itself is not just how would I say it? You can make money by questing, but not just directly. It's a good exercise in your writing, at least. Like as far as I know, some people remade their quest in books. Like there was at least one author on Akun that did that. I don't remember the name though.
I did that for my first and so far only NaNoWriMo victory, because I rewrote one of my old quests, and I was like underage at the time, and I was so bad I can't read it anymore. It's just so stupid. It's so fucking bad. Oh my god.
That's pretty normal. Every time you improve and then you look at the things that you did before, you're just like, oh god, oh that's terrible.
Like
Yeah, I don't think I've ever met a writer who, or any artist of any sort who enjoyed their previous work.
I feel like that's kind of the curse of artistry, of being a creative person. You feel the need to make so much, but whenever you look at what you've made before, you just hate it. I don't think either. I know a lot of artists because I make friends with as many people as possible, which is a weird sentence coming from me, I know. I don't think I've ever met a single artist that's satisfied with what they put out in the month before. It really is like a curse.
Yep.
I mean,
Well,
like,
the thing is, you've got to realise that any artist that's completely happy with their work is probably one that's not going to improve. I mean, a bit of an internet meme, but a perfect example would be Andrew Dobson of So You're a Cartoonist, who basically just doesn't seem to improve in his work. So you kind of need that to be an artist, is that you're never happy with what you've done before.
Well, you need it not only as an artist, you need that as any creative profession, as any profession in general. Like you always need to be dissatisfied with your work, with your previous work at least, to want to improve, to become better. That's just an axiom, I don't know, a foundation of your improvement. You can't improve without being dissatisfied with yourself at this moment.
yeah, I figure we've milked that topic enough. So
Pretty
I
much.
found saw another question from Spuds of the Apocalypse that I thought was interesting. Do you want your players to succeed, or do you want them to fail miserably?
Whatever's most interesting, surely.
Pally here. Sorry, we're supposed to be saying each other's names as we talk. So I would say I very much want my players to succeed, but obviously succeed in a way that I find entertaining, that they enjoy. And that does have a certain amount of tension in it, so that they always sort of worrying about, are we going to succeed completely? Is something going to go wrong? Are we going to lose something? Is it going to cost us something to succeed? But I would say overall, I want my players to succeed.
Contrived here, yeah, I'd have to say I agree with Pauli's general sentiment. Not sure if I can add anything to them other than no, I'm done.
That's it.
Yeah, but actually, oh, go on.
I'd say, well, depending on the quest, like quests that I have a structure to, like Persona Quest, I generally want them to succeed. Although I'm not gonna say I don't fuck with them from time to time. But like my older quests, where I was literally just writing for the seat of my pants and had zero things planned besides the very next update ahead. I didn't like. It's not that I didn't want them to fail. I just didn't really care about what happened because I was more enjoying the ride than anything. Which is why I don't make those kinds of quests anymore.
I would agree with Peli. If I ever actually ran a quest, which I don't, I'm just translating one. Well, at this point, I'm actually like a co-author, I guess, because I help the actual QM a lot. Anyway, I do want myself as a player to succeed, and I do want the players of this quest to succeed. I want it to be properly completed, and the only way for that to happen is for the players to succeed and for the main character to succeed. So yeah, but still, it's MMD, by the way. It's MMD, and I'm not exactly eligible to answer this question, unfortunately.
It was a very simple topic, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
No one. Yep. Okay. All right. Got everything out of the way. Questions.
Oh, Kat had one. How do you pace in a quest? How do you keep yourself in check and avoid going too slow or too fast? How would you? I'm not finishing that sentence.
What?
What?
Oh, would you add someone else's fetish to your quest to gain readers?
I mean, like I would finish it normally, but there's other people in my apartment right now, so.
Oh, I see.
It's not the personal thing, trust me.
Well, would you add someone else's fetish to your quest to gain readers?
I mean, that was pretty much the entire. entirety of most of my old quests was me starting with something that I liked, and then just basically letting people write and vote stuff that they liked, and that ended very well. With a question mark. For the other part of the question, though, about keeping pace, it's mostly the one quest I actively run much more than my other one's Persona quest, basically keeps itself in check because the entire quest is clock based, and time passes, not in real time at all, but just it passes in general. So it's not like you can spend half an hour talking to someone and then like go right back to dungeon crawling. It just doesn't work like that. So it kind of like it sets a natural limiter on itself.
Anyone else? Or should I go?
You can go.
Okay. I'm again, this is MMD, and I'm not eligible to answer this question, not in full at least. This is kinda hard. With at least with Paladin of Avalon, the quest is so far is in its story that I don't think that adding a drastically different fetish or changing its narrative in some drastically different drastic way is even an option at this point. Like it's like what 600,000 words in English. That's what translated at least. So I don't think it's possible to add a different fetish, a drastically different fetish than what is already in the story. And as far as if I ever ran a quest, I don't think so. No, like I would be unable to add a fetish that is not one of my fetishes. I would be unable to even write it. Like I would never write water sports. I would never write what's scat. I would never write diapers. Like it's just impossible for me.
Yeah, I get that. I wouldn't write any
Always
kind of fetish. I just prefer to keep shit very, very strictly. There's a word there, and I've completely forgotten it. Strictly separatable, say instead. I keep fetish it and so on. Anyone else want to answer this question? No. Yeah, basically. Well, no, I think the word I was looking for was delineated. But I don't know if that even works in this context.
Yeah, I don't even know what that word means off the top of my head. I need to grab Webster.
Wow.
I mean, I heard my fair share of words, but that's not one that I hear all the time.
Okay, then I guess I'll answer that question. How do you pace in a quest? How do you see if you keep yourself in check and avoid going too slow or too fast? This is Pally answering the question, by the way. Yeah, that's always been a little bit of a problem. Sometimes when things are getting a little bit slow, I have a tendency to drop in a problem for my players to deal with, and I really need to avoid that. And to avoid that, I've been trying to sort of plan out what's going to be happening in my quests a couple of threads in advance, so that we have sort of definite checkpoints and accomplishments that the players are going to be aiming for, so that I know that there's something around the corner, so that I'm not just making shit up as I go along. And would add someone else's fetish to your quest to gain readers? Absolutely would. I have no shame whatsoever. But like everybody else has said, if it was something that was kind of a big turn-off for me, I simply wouldn't be able to write it.
Yeah, I think everyone here has their limits that they wouldn't do, but I think most of us would do that for readers.
I have a question to Pele. Isn't it your could it be considered your fetish if you're willing to write it?
That's an excellent question, and I think the best way to answer that is, and I forget the name of this website, honestly I do, but there's a website that people go to for role-playing, and they list all the fetishes and they say, these are the ones that I really like, and these are the ones that I'm kind of okay with, and these are the ones that I would never touch with a barge pole. So I would say for any fetish, most people would put it on a scale rather than saying yes it is or no it isn't. It would be some kind of thing to say, yes, that really, really is my fetish, or no, that absolutely can't imagine how that would be enjoyable for anyone. Or they're kind of like, yeah, I can kind of, I could do that if it's the right context, right person, right situation. So I'd write things that are not necessarily one of my key fetishes, but things that I can kind of see how people would find that erotic. I don't mind writing about it just as a way of thinking about it. Yeah, why not?
All right, thanks.
All right,
Are
this
we
is
done with that question now? Oh, contrived. There we go.
Yeah,
so
you
Geoffrey,
never
okay?
answered it.
Well, I was actually going to answer the question from Maleficar. How do you diversify your vocabulary? And honestly, I did it by basically doing lots and lots and lots of reading. Uh, I've read pretty much all through high school, all through university, and I mean, without really meaning to, without really any conscious thought behind it, I often use words that then people in my chat yell at me about, telling me that they're taking away my thesaurus privileges.
Yeah, I have a lot of personal history with me and my vocabulary, mostly because I've been super Asperger's since birth, which includes some of the fun stuff like reading really early but not speaking early. So I would basically be reading always like 2 or 3 years above my child age. So I was basically throughout my entire childhood I was playing like fantasy RPGs that were like punching way above my reading level normally if I was someone my normal age. And I just learned what the word moat was when I was like 12 and played World of Warcraft. And that word didn't show up on my vocab test so I was like 17. Basically just play lots of RPGs and they usually have a lot of fancy words. And that's how I learned most of my vocabulary. Although I have scanned the dictionary once or two times.
Yeah, I probably learned shit the same way. I don't know. I just absorb words fairly easily, so
Yeah,
I
I
can't
agree.
brag about reading or playing a lot of RPGs or anything. I'm just naturally extremely intelligent. Okay.
You? Oh yeah. You are for sure. Yeah.
Fucking 200 IQ.
No mean to aggrandize, but I do feel like people who engage in this while being social outcasts and general horrible people are probably slightly more intelligent than the average population. Just like going by pure intelligence and no other metric.
Slightly. Yeah, slightly. By
Yeah,
an
but that's
IQ
kind of a
point or
low
two,
bar.
maybe.
The average intelligence isn't that great.
Average
Yeah.
intelligence is 100.
It's a 98 in Australia and America, actually. So
Really? That's weird.
yeah.
Thanks, Obama.
I actually have no idea what my IQ is.
Probably fairly low.
I remember taking a bunch of
Nah.
tests that said my reading IQ or whatever was like 140 something, and then everything else was just kind of normal.
Yeah. That doesn't surprise me at all.
I just never saw it as a good metric, I guess.
It's a metric of being able to pattern recognize mostly,
Yes. Yeah.
which doesn't necessarily mean that you're smarter than someone. It just means you're better at looking at things fast and figuring out what they mean quickly.
That's what.
Okay, so going back to the questions, DMC's copied some from above. So how do you come up with the premise for your quest? If we go down the list, DMC, go ahead.
Well, if we're going
You
down the list, then
miscontrived.
Why?
Skip
Why
All
is
right,
what?
Contrived, then why not?
He just doesn't talk much. Though.
skip him.
By the way, why is Pelly the host now?
I don't know. He
I
just
thought
felt like
it was
asking shit.
it were you two guys.
We
Well,
can have 3 hosts. We can have 4. We
Okay.
can. Everyone
We
can
can
be a
have,
host. if they
everyone's a
want.
host.
Okay.
Millionaire.
Don't feel
Everyone's a winner.
bad about asking questions. Just
yay,
do it.
have a gold star. But alright, this is Contrived, and to answer the question, how do you come up with the quest? My quest idea, the idea for Promises of Power was actually something that came out from my previous quest, the one I ran on 8chan called The Perilous Journey. I offered back there. I offered the players the option of running several different, basically character classes, and one of them was a summoner who would make pacts with various demons to gain strange and unusual powers. And that class did not get picked, but it was one I kind of wanted to get picked, wanted to win. So when it came time to make a complete new quest, I basically went with that, with someone who wants to with someone who makes pacts with supernatural creatures, and that's where it started.
All right, as this is DMC. So as for my quests, typically, I just get an idea and a burst of ADHD-inspired inspiration, and I'll just like have this burning need to get it out of my skull as quickly as possible. So that usually ends up with me just having these ill-fated ideas. I just pump out one after another, run for like 2 hours, and then drop completely. But usually I get my ideas just from either like basically whatever anime, book, music, or video game I've been playing / reading / experiencing most recently. Like I started Persona Quest when I got Persona Q, and I just started playing that for weeks and weeks, and like I watched Madoka Magica, and then I can't believe my girlfriend is a magical girl, and I still am intending on going back to that at some point. But most of them is basically, well, this is the most recent thing I've seen with my own 2 eyes. Let me try to write it now and fail. That's my inspiration.
I don't know. I just sit around and come up with ideas, basically. I can just sit, think, and compile some shit out of, I don't know, whatever the fuck I've, as DMC said, experienced over, however, well, fairly recently. And then I don't ever rank quests with them because I get too attached to them and I want to do quests perfectly. But I can't write for shit. So, yeah, I just end up world building or plotting out characters eternally until I get sick of the idea. Okay, that's me, MMD.
Again, not exactly eligible. I have several quest ideas in my head and somewhere in a text document, maybe, but I've never run one. I've never run one. I basically just take a basic idea and write it down and try to think what I can add to it and how would it work and where would take the story. As my, I guess, thinking about quests is heavily influenced by the POA, the Paladin of Avalon. I try, I guess, to structure the story as it's structured there, which is you have a beginning and several branching paths. It's not several branching paths. It's not a sandbox in any way. So you have several paths, but you can't really go away from them. So you just can't do random shit. Probably you can, but it will break the story mostly. And I have several events that should happen or supposed to happen in the future, and I have several paths that should lead to them. And depending on which path the players will choose, they will come to these events on different sides of the conflict. For example, like there is a great battle meant to happen in like, I don't know, 30 days, and depending on what the players do in those 30 days, they will either become be on the one side of the battle or on the other side of the battle, or will just stand beside it and watch shit happen.
All right, and Pally?
Yeah, so how do I come up with the premise for my quest? I'm going to have to steal part of DMC's answer here and say it's basically what I've been reading, what I've been watching, whether it be books, quests, anime, whatever. But when I've got an idea for a quest, I very much try and fit it into a setting or a scenario or something that I'm knowledgeable of or comfortable with. Because I suppose one of my greatest fears is trying to run a quest in a setting that my players are going to be much more familiar with than I am, and I'm going to look like a complete idiot doing it.
Yeah, that's part of the reason why I usually run quests in not existing settings, and like I'll either just take one that exists and kind of bend it so it's something different. Like Persona Quest is kind of almost entirely Persona, but the rules are just a little different. So that way no one can say, oh, well, this doesn't work like that, because I can say, well, it does here, shut up.
This is Contrived, and to expand a bit on my original answer, how I get ideas in general is, well, very often is that I read or watch something, something that has an interesting concept or idea, but that failed on delivering in some way, and that's when I start thinking, okay, how would I do it if I was doing it? How would I do it better?
Yeah, that's fair. Think it's time to move on to the next one?
Yeah. Do you want to ask your question or?
Of course I do. I always want to ask my own question. Question for ourselves by DM Casual. Thank you for asking. how do you deal with people trying to go off the rails in your quests? You can start with Contrived if you want, or start with Pally. I don't care. You two fight over it.
Sure, this is Contrived, and I can start. Well, there is usually two ways to I deal with it. One is that to preempt this, to basically set up a situation where the character has to choose from a narrow band of options, or I use those options basically in promises of power. The way I structure my updates, Cassandra usually thinks about what she wants to do and her possible options, and she present them before I open the reader suggestions. And I kind of use this to guide people's ideas in a certain direction. Although there have also been instances where someone just came up with a different idea out of the complete blue, and I thought about it and I decided, yeah, this is a good idea, and the quest went off in a different direction. So I deal with it, but I deal with people going off the rails by either not allowing them the opportunity to go off the rails, or by allowing them, I guess.
By changing the rails.
Pulling a
Or
lever.
making new rails, you could say.
We could turn this into a trolley problem if we wanted to. So yeah, DMC, and my answer is typically in my older quests, there were never any rails to begin with because literally every option was player written. And I was, as I said before, more or less writing update by update without any real thought to a cohesive narrative afterwards. And that I got drained and fatigued of that after a while, and that's why I don't do that anymore. But for Persona Quest, basically the only way they could go off the rails at this point is through concerted effort from everyone in the chat, more or less, to just basically leave town and ditch the story. Like it's self-contained. The rails are all over the place. The rails form fences, so there's no real way for someone to really leave the bounds of the story without getting the entire group to agree, which is probably not happening.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sort of did what DMC did in the one quest I didn't run, drunk. I didn't have any fucking rails. You couldn't get me to write anything I didn't want to write. And if they tried to push off the rails, then I would just incorporate shit I wanted to write anyway. And railroad them basically. That's how it should be done.
That's why
or fence road them in this case, whatever the fuck you want to say.
I'll say it once, and I'll say it probably 1,000 times before I stop doing this stupid podcast. One of the greatest tools at a QM's disposal is the illusion of choice.
Mm-hmm.
Making people think that they have an option when they really, really don't.
That's how all quests should be run.
I would agree with Contrived here. Oh, I thought it was my tone, and I just wanted to say that I agree with Contrived here pretty much. It's just that you create new rails if your players say something or give you a new option that you didn't think about before.
It's like driving a train versus driving a car. Cars don't need rails. Trains do.
Trains usually can't create new rails. You can.
Yeah.
You can restructure your... Yeah?
That analogy was going somewhere. I'm not sure where.
I don't think it was going anywhere, no.
Yeah.
You could say that analogy got derailed.
Nice one.
Nice one. Nice one.
Oh no. I'm going to stab you now. All right. Pally?
Yeah, so whilst DMC is going to rail against that pun, I'm going to say... Yeah, I'm going to say rails? What rails? There are no rails in my quest. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. No, I very similar to Contrived. Maybe I've stolen this idea from him at some point, where I will have the character, they're presented with a situation. There's several obvious options that would come to their mind as to how to deal with this, depending on the situation, their allies, the powers that they've got, the equipment that they've got. And I'll typically list about 3 or 4 options to say, okay, so your character thinks about this, and this would be this, and it's a low risk option, but the enemy might get away. This is a bit more high risk, and will probably beat the enemy, so on and so forth. So the character will sort of spend a couple of sentences thinking about it. And then obviously I try and put as many of my votes as I can in Akun to also have the option for player writing. So basically they're presented with 3 or 4 options that the character thinks about that are reasonable to the character. But on the other hand, if players want to write in an option to say, actually, we want to deal with it this way, I normally just roll with it. Unless it's something that's going to be impossible or completely screw stuff up, then sure, go for it.
Yeah.
Hang on, this question is
general,
good. Fid's just asked. Do you incorporate a dice system, and how much rigidity do you place on the outcome? And how did you decide upon this system?
And what do you like about it?
That is one.
I'm gonna shoot for this one first. Sorry, Contrived. That I ran. Well, I don't run Cyber Demon Quest anymore purely because I can't physically, like, I can't get on 4chan anymore and post. But Cyber Demon Quest and Persona Quest both use dice. The thing with Persona Quest is that the dice are entirely basically behind my DM screen. It's all done in my hands, and the players just kind of see the outcomes as it happens. And there's not like really a complicated system. Just here's the percentages. I'm gonna roll 100 on that. And for Cyber Demon Quest, though, I actually went ahead and made my own sort of like pseudo tabletop pen and paper sort of system. I still have the paste bin if anyone wants it. That basically works on increasing both modifiers and the dice amounts as you level up, because I feel like in that kind of quest, the dice system needed to present dramatic differences in the scale, because of the nature of it, as like the main characters are just these robotic super monsters that are so high above everyone else that they can only compete on their own scale. So I needed a way to include humans in it that could say, okay, these humans are all tissue paper, and then these people can all fight amongst themselves. But so generally, I try to construct dice systems for functionality first, and then flavor second. And also, because when you make a dice system, you need to fit it for the platform you're using on. So originally, the system for Cyber Demon Quest had multiple types of die, but you can't do that. You can only roll 1 dice at a time in a post on 4chan. So I had to just slim it down and narrow it. Otherwise, it was going to be a little bit more complicated than the way it is. But yeah, whoever wants to speak next and go.
Alright, this is Contrived, and the reason I use a dice system, because I do, is because dice are, I feel dice are ultimately the most fair way of representing an outcome. It's because if I simply decide what happens, then I open myself to accusations of bias, of rolling, of making a character purposefully fail. Basically, dice, a completely random roll, eliminates this accusation. So I think this makes players less focused on convincing me that they're right, and focused more on planning to say stack positive modifiers on a roll, so to maximize the chances of a good outcome.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
me? I have no idea what to do with dice, basically. In Exiled, I just ripped off Soma's system. I was going to do stupid shit with it, but then I ended up not doing that. What else? Oh, the quest I ran drunk, I think I just used, was it Combat Chain? Yeah, Fall Guys system. So that was, you get a list of actions, you break them down into a list, and each one you roll a d10 for. So I don't remember shit about that quest actually beyond that. So yeah, I have no idea what I'm doing when it comes to dice, and I pick systems pretty much arbitrarily.
Yeah.
There you go.
To intrude in for a second, I kind of consider myself sort of an armchair game dev, so I try to make systems by my own, because it doesn't feel quite as satisfying to me to just use something that someone else prepared. But that's another thing I think about dice, is just I'd rather use my own way, or just like a completely boring generic way like D20, than like go by some sort of source book.
Oh, this is contrived, and yeah, I do agree with that. The system I use is of my own devising. I actually spent an inordinate amount of time trying to balance it somehow.
Okay, this is MMD, and I completely disagree with all of you.
Oh,
I hate dice systems in quests. They are terrible, and they should be abolished altogether. In
You're
my
wrong.
in my opinion. Shut up.
fucking revolutionary here.
Your
Yeah.
opinion is objectively incorrect.
They reduce and they limit the significance of reasoning and thought put by the players into their actions. It lies on the QM and the writer of the story to construct it in such a way that he cannot or be accused of bias, or that such accusations have minimal impact. I will disagree with Contrived about his argument that dice system protects him from accusations of bias, because you set DCs, you set the rules, you are biased, you can be accused of bias. It doesn't protect you from accusations of bias, and rightfully so.
And it gives an
When
easy
you
excuse
set-
to kill waifus.
What?
They give an easy excuse to kill waifus.
I have
Mm,
yet to actually kill a waifu.
yeah.
Well, you're a shit QM.
Anyway, continuing. When you set a DC of like 65, this is bias. Or at least you can be accused of bias. Why is it 65? Why isn't it 45 or 60 or 35 or 85? You are setting the rules. You are setting the dice or the DCs. This is your doing. In no way does it protect you from bias, and it's in no way different from me just setting up options for my players and properly explaining to them, or at least foreshadowing to them, what each option will bring. It's a question of foreshadowing. If you are able to properly foreshadow the consequences of a choice, then you're a good QM. If not, well, not so good. And yes, once again, dice shouldn't happen in quest. They can, of course, but it's a sign of lazy writing. When you let the dice write your story for you, and you again dilute and reduce the significance of your players' actions, because they rely on dice to either fuck them over or do all the work for them without thinking.
To be fair, when I do use dice, I never use them for social stuff because that's fucking stupid. When I use dice, it's always only for combat. Because I feel like combat in real life is never as predictable as you could just easily make it like, oh, aim for the arm. Yeah, you're going to hit that arm every single time, obviously. But I mainly, like, I would never condone the use of dice for social stuff in quests. That's just, I agree with that. That's stupid. Because that completely removes player skill in speechcraft from
Well,
the
Contrived does
equation.
that. he has he has a stat called cunning, and Contrived may correct me if I'm wrong. And cunning is basically what you just described. The more cunning you get, the more persuasive you are, and the players have it to the roof, like more than a human being is capable of physically in this world.
What about you, Pally? What's your opinion on dice?
Well, I always use dice in my quests, and I've written fairly complicated systems as part of my quests, so I can't really say that I'm against dice. I'd say that I'm for dice, very much for the same reasons it's Contrived saying, in that it does take a certain amount of decision making out of the QM's hands. Whether that's a good thing or bad thing depends on your opinion. But if you want to get into a full discussion of whether you should use dice in quests at all, you're really going to have to go back to good old RPG theory of simulation, simulationism, narrativism, and gamism. So basically, is it a game? Are you trying to tell a story, or are you accurately trying to model what would actually happen in a real world? So they're the three sort of key parts of any RPG. Now, obviously, a quest is very, very different to a tabletop RPG. You simply don't have time to roll lots of dice. So I tend to use best of 3, so that it's not a case of, to use a D&D example, when you're just going to swing and miss the goblin 3 times before finally hitting the damn thing. The best of 3 system is there to basically mean that the player has an advantage over the world in that they're rolling more dice, they're picking the highest option, so that generally, more often than not, they are going to succeed. And yes, you can set DCs as the QM, so you can say whether something's going to be easy or hard. But generally, you would have telegraphed that in your text, your description, to say whether a particular thing is going to be easy or hard, so the players know themselves whether they're going for an option that plays the character's strengths, or perhaps is something that that particular character is not as good at. So as long as you're telegraphing it and saying, a particular option is going to be easy, particular option is going to be hard, then I don't see a problem with having dice in. It's not really taking control away from the QM. It's not really taking control away from the players. They still get to choose what option that they use. Yes, the dice are going to put a certain amount of success or fail into the option, but a good QM is still going to be able to write an interesting failure or even a success that simply costs the player a little bit more. I get this, I've heard this argument a few times from people saying, no, if you use dice, you must be a lazy QM, you must be a bad QM, you must be absolutely horrible at QMing. That not using dice obviously means conversely that you must be a superior QM, and I simply don't buy it.
This is honestly, we could talk and argue about gamism versus simulationism. I could talk about this for hours. I could talk about this forever. But
Or
I have
we could
2
talk about
questions
which
for me
monster
in the
girl
chat.
you'd
Can
find.
I answer them?
yeah, we could talk about stupid shit like that, eh?
I have 2 questions for me in the chat Discord. Can I answer them?
Oh yeah, sure.
Right. So first is Fiddlekins. Fiddlekins.
Fiddlekin. Fiddle diddle.
How do fiddle diddle? Yes. How do you foreshadow in a quest when there is so much user input at work? I'm not sure that I get this question. Can you clarify, Fiddle? Like, what do you mean? What situation are you imagining right now? What
I
player
don't get that.
interaction?
How do you not just like foreshadow as you would in any other thing? I mean, sure, it's a
Yeah,
little more
I don't
a little
really
more
understand the
difficult,
question.
but you just railroad shit.
Well, the long answer is you don't put your players in a situation where you can't foreshadow things. Like, you don't put them in a random cave where 2 random creatures that they have never met before just appear, and they have to choose which one to go, which one to
Fred
fight.
said, if you foreshadow too heavily, what happens when users move away from your events? Well, in which case you just rewrite things. But
move away from your events where?
as in, you've got some shit set up that foreshadows it. We'll say they're going to place X, right? And they instead decide to go to place Y. What do you do then?
Again, I blanked out for a second. Can you repeat?
Do you just not listen to anything I say?
No, I did listen. I was
the
just,
rest of us don't either, so he's in good company there.
It's if you foreshadow too heavily, what happens when users move away from your events?
No, I got that.
And then
just
he clarified with, but if they move away and ignore your foreshadowing, then you end up with no actual foreshadowing.
You're foreshadowing
move
something
away
that's
where? Move away where?
If you say, okay, well, next you're going to do this thing.
No.
And
You don't
no,
go.
we're going to do some other shit.
You don't foreshadow it like this. You foreshadow for several chapters ahead. You set
word
up the
things
vault and you set up.
vaguely.
Let me finish. You
No.
set up the vault and you set up the things that happen in this vault. You set up its rules and you set up the shit that can happen, possibly can happen. Like, if you go in this cave, you will probably meet, I don't know, giant spiders. If you go to the surface, there are orcs there, and orcs are this and this, and spiders are this and this. This is how you foreshadow. You don't foreshadow for a turn ahead or 2 turns. You foreshadow for a game ahead. Ideally, of course. It's not easy, but it's possible. It's doable.
Yep.
You introduce characters that may appear several turns or several chapters in the future. You don't just introduce them like they are talking to the main character. You say that they exist, and you say some rumors about them, maybe, but if it's some legendary character, and when they meet them, They know what to think at least, how to go about them, how to interact with them. This is how you foreshadow.
Artfully said. All right.
Okay, we're at the hour mark. Are we just gonna fuck around now?
Can I one last question? I don't get so many questions
Go ahead
directed to
then.
me.
No worries.
One-eyed's question for MD. Have you ever found it difficult to bring across the nuances of the original work in your translation? And yes, I have, many times actually. For quite a, a significant amount of times, I find it difficult to convey the exact meaning of a sentence, because while words have particular translations for them, they're not exactly accurate. Like a single word like mother, for example, and mama in English and in Russian, respectively, are actually two different words. They just have the main meaning of theirs as the same, but the words and the images, I guess you could say, that surround these words are different in two languages. And yes, I have a lot of instances where I find it difficult to translate exact meanings and of sentences or the story in general. For the most drastic of these instances, I just use translation notes. Like there is no way to accurately translate a sentence without explaining the culturological or basically just culturological background of this.
All right. So let's get to some of the stupid questions while we have very little time left.
Like the one I asked earlier. Which monster girl would you fuck?
Holstaris, or however you pronounce it.
I'd fuck a slime.
Female Minotaur. Oh yeah.
Contrived.
Give me that shit.
Or
Probably,
MD, you run a monster girl quest. All right.
I'd probably risk a Naga.
Oh, spicy.
That's okay.
What about you guys?
There are so many.
Pick one.
I was going to
Just
say,
right
can
off
I
the
just
top of the
can
head.
I just pick a buffet?
No.
Nah, you have to
Oh.
pick one. That's what makes the question good.
Oh
succubus.
God! Right, narrow it down to one. If
Succubus.
I had a choice, which one would I pick? Oh Christ! I'm going to be boring and say cat girl.
Yeah, that's
Cat
really
girl.
that's terrible.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
No.
You pleb.
Well, you wouldn't let me. You railroaded me into that decision. I couldn't pick the one I wanted, so fuck
Okay,
you.
well, what do you?
Well,
You can't say
pick the
you want
one
to
you
fuck
wanted. Why
all
would
of
you want
them.
a cat?
Well, I just most of them, to be honest. I've got very low standards.
That's
That's
clear.
fair.
Okay. Well, what are some other questions we have?
What's
a-
Lollies or MILFs?
Well, oh wait, no.
Milfs.
May I
Sorry.
answer at least?
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
sure.
sure.
Wait,
The
didn't you
monster
answer?
girl
You said succubus.
Oh yes, I did. Well, nobody reacted. I thought nobody
I
heard me,
did.
and
I
Pele
said,
was
"Oh, succubus."
talking over them.
In a
Yeah.
vaguely approving tone.
Thank
All right.
you.
Who is the best girl / boy in your quest?
Joker himself. No one else is going to answer.
All of my characters are pretty horrible people when you get right down to it. Amani is pretty much the only decent person the main character has met so far, and she's probably going to get corrupted somewhere along the way.
She's a cunt, though.
I like Sarazawa Hanabi. She's autistic, so I'm naturally drawn to her.
I would say the best boy in Paladin of Avalon is Heinrich himself, the main character. He is a very lovable guy. Like, as for the best girl, that's actually a hard question. My favorite character of the quest is Morgos de la Fey, who is an undead princess, princess in exile of a kingdom, who has fought against the influence of the church that was slowly taking over her kingdom and was ultimately exiled for it after
Alright,
losing
that
a
sounds
major.
cool.
But
Pally, what about you?
let me finish. Let me finish. I'm just trying
Talk
to explain
faster.
why I like it. The thing is, oh fuck you! Like, come on, Pally.
Okay, right. So I have about 8 quests. So I get to pick a best girl and a best boy from each one. We're going to be here
Go
all night.
quick.
Right, now, very quickly, I will just instead shill my next quest, which is going to be Age of Mutants, which is coming back after a 3-month hiatus. We've got the characters affectionately referred to as Goat Waifu, who's going to obviously be the best girl in that quest. And hopefully we're going to see where the relationship goes this time.
Alright, I'll shill next because I only run one quest anyway, so I'll shill for it any day this week. Or I only actually run one. Read another goddamn Persona quest. It's kind of self-aware, and I've been told it feels like the way you would adapt Persona into a quest. And there's waifus galore.
So
Like
it's true.
hips. I mean, yeah, but I'm not gonna say that out loud.
Okay,
All right.
next. Contrived.
What was the question again?
Shill your quest. No,
Shill
quick,
your
go.
quest.
All right, Promises of Power. We just finished the first major arc. The interlude where Cass gets to go on some adventures and do Indiana Jones shit starts this Sunday.
Okay, MMD.
I have a question to Contrived. Will it actually start the Indiana Jones stuff? Really?
Well, she's probably not going to be swinging through old ruins, but it's not going to be politics and intrigue. Let's put it.
Oh,
that
she's not
way.
going to become Tomb Raider.
There's really no tombs to raid. There will be an ancient mountain monastery though.
So she's ancient mountain monastery raider then.
Effectively, yes.
All right.
Mhm.
You go ahead.
Yeah, Mike is good. Is it E?
Oh yeah, I forgot about you, MMD. You go ahead.
MMD, go.
No, it's E Stone. He's high on the.
No, you just do it
on the line.
first. Just fucking go. Just chill, fast.
No, you
Oh,
you
fuck you. I wanted to save mine for last. Okay, Joker Quest is great. Good action, great writing, dark tone. It really picks up after thread 19. I'm stuck on like the semi-last thread. I should finish it soon. I'd really be motivated, however, if more people picked up the quest. Okay, go, MD.
Paladin of Avalon is a high fantasy quest that starts on a fairly small scale and grows bigger and bigger with each chapter. It's a story of Heinrich, a young paladin that comes to a dark island, a last spot of dark in the ocean of victorious light, and has to destroy one of the last dark lords of this world. It doesn't turn out how you would expect it to. By the 28th chapter, if I remember correctly right now, we are basically fighting gods. So
it's like a JRPG then.
No, not really. What I will say though, it's a mix of a lot of different settings. It's basically the Arthurian tale set in a D&D-like multiverse with a ton of references and characters from all over, like
Chill
from
faster.
The Lord of the Rings. What?
Faster.
Chill faster.
I can't go faster. I'm not that good in English. Sorry. From The Lord of the Rings, from the D&D, from the Warcraft, from any setting you can imagine, from the folklore, from the Bible, the incredible amount of quotes from the Bible there, as it's about a paladin. So yeah, go read it. Pally?
Pally already shilled his, I think.
We didn't do it in order.
Oh, right. Okay, I forgot. Sorry.
That's why I wanted you to go first.
All right, so I think that wraps it up for episode 2. Yeah, episode 2 of the Anonkun official podcast. I am DM-Casual signing off, and everyone else can sort of do as they wish now.
I don't have anything funny to say, but yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Bye.
no. If I had something funny to say, I'd say it. Bye.